You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Hey, good morning, everyone. If in fact it's morning, I'm Chris, this is Jeff, and we are the Bible Guys.
We are so happy to be here.
Do you know that I was actually contemplating I have a bottle of water over here. Mm-hmm. I was contemplating actually gargling good morning.
And you shouldn't have wasted it. That would have been amazing.
I know. But you know, here's the thing. I didn't trust myself because I was going to laugh. I was going to spit it. And so I thought to myself, I don't think I could ever do that. Yeah. So I don't think I could do it by surprise. Okay. So who knows? Maybe tomorrow I'll start that way.
Maybe. Okay.
So there you go. That's a reason to tune in.
And if you're a new listener with us, Chris has a habit of at least once a week singing good morning to our listeners.
Yeah. I think
because he loves our listeners.
There. Yeah.
And our listeners just wait. Is today the day?
No, they do not.
Oh, they sure do.
They do not. Yep. I think like 5 people. And they keep on saying it.
Well, that's about the extent of our listeners, except for the new one listening today.
Hey! Look, Billy's listening from Canada.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. That's great. All right. Well, hey, Desiree has a section it's called Stump the Pastor. We do this every once in a while.
Oh, yeah. These are fun.
Yeah. And so here's the way this one reads. And this is from Bella L.
Mm-hmm. Bella. Hi, Bella.
Yes.
Hi, Bella L. We're so glad that you're listening.
Yes.
And you decided that the thing you wanted to do was stump us.
Try to stump us.
Yes.
Try to stump us. All right. So it says this. It says, what made Chris mad this week is my favorite bit. Oh, look at that.
Oh, see, I told you. It's everybody's favorite bit.
It's Bella's favorite bit. Yeah. She said, Stump the Pastor is my close second. So here's my question.
Wow.
My husband and I were reading through Genesis, and we came up with a question we couldn't find the answer to. So what are your thoughts on dinosaurs? And are they biblical? Are they in the Bible? There's no direct reference to them in creation, says Bella L. So she wants to know, where do Bibles fit in the Bible? Where do dinosaurs fit in the Bible?
Where do dinosaurs fit in the Bible? I don't know that. Well, I don't know. Great question.
Yeah, great question.
Really great question.
Yep.
2, what do you think, Chris?
Well, I think that they were, I believe that they existed with mankind. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a reference to Job talking about Leviathan, which is literally translates into great, terrible lizard, mm-hmm. right? I think there's a couple other references to things like that. And I think that perhaps when things, the theory is, there's one common theory that says that they could have been on the ark. So, and people say, wait a minute, dinosaurs were huge. They couldn't get on the ark. What about baby dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Right?
Dinosaur eggs.
Dinosaur eggs, whatever.
Babies. Yeah.
So they could have been on the ark. God could have, just allowed them to cease to exist. So, but one thing is clear, they were a part of the world. Yeah. Now, there's another theory. The other theory is that because God exists out of time and God, could have allowed the earth, to have gone through, and dinosaurs could have been before humanity. There's another theory like that.
Yeah, there's kind of a doctrinal issue with that one with regard to this earth, because it says, wherefore, as by one man sin entered the world, mm-hmm. talking about earth.
Yep.
And death by sin, so death passed upon all men, for all have sinned. So death came because of sin.
Right.
So if all those dinosaurs were here and then they died before humanity came,
that's doctrinally,
where would death have come from? Right. So there was no purpose behind death prior to man's sin.
Right.
So the idea that they existed before and then died and then men came is doesn't really align. So I think you mentioned a couple things. You mentioned
which,
Leviathan.
by the way, is important to know because that's the theory, right?
Right.
That's what the world believes.
Yeah. So you mentioned Leviathan, and you can look this up. So one, you're right. It's not in the creation story, other than the fact that the Bible just says he created everything on the land and on the sea.
Right.
Right. And in the air.
Right.
So, but the book of Job does seem to reference. Now, the Job is the oldest book in the Bible, and Job was probably written about the time of Abraham. So this is a couple thousand years after Adam. And in Job 41, it describes Leviathan. It says, can you pull a Leviathan with a fishhook or tie down his tongue with a rope? His back has rows of shields tightly sealed together. His snorting throws out flashes of light. His eyes are like the rays of dawn, right? So it's kind of seems like a marine kind of a dinosaur type animal. In Behemoth, or he also mentions Behemoth in chapter 40. It says, "Look at Behemoth, which I made along with you, and which feeds on grass like an ox." We know a lot of the dinosaurs were herbivorous. And he says, "What strength it has in its loins, what power in the muscles of its belly. Its tail sways like a cedar."
Right. Like a cedar tree.
Yeah, like a cedar tree. The sinews of its thighs are close knit. Its bones are tubes of bronze. Its limbs are like rods of iron. It goes on and talks about how neither one of these animals can be subdued or tamed by humans. In Isaiah, it mentions the idea that he shall slay the dragon that's in the sea. So there seems to be these references of these great creatures that humans just accepted as, like, they're not saying, "Hey, did you ever hear about this?" They're referencing it as if everybody knows what they're talking about.
Right. Otherwise, they would have made more of a spectacle of it.
Yeah. But at some point, they became extinct. Some people would point to the flood as being one of the reasons. There's a lot of, if you've never been to the Creation Museum, that'd be interesting to go down. They have some theories about it. There's lots of different people who have different theories about. But there are tons of animals that are extinct today that existed thousands of years ago. I was at a guy's, he has a private family museum, and he has a baby woolly mammoth. And they're trying to bring back the woolly mammoths using the DNA from this frozen. It was frozen in the tundra, and the South Koreans are working with him. He's a billionaire, and they're working with him to bring back woolly mammoths from the DNA that's still in that woolly mammoth. Right? Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Right. So that kind of stuff. There's lots of animals that become extinct. So I don't think that there's a problem with the fact that we see dinosaur bones. I've got a bunch of fossils in my office, right? Don't I?
Yep, you do.
And I love that stuff. And I just don't have a problem with the idea that dinosaurs existed. And I don't have a problem with the idea that they exist at the same time as humanity. Every single people group in the world that draws in caves have drawn some kind of version of. Europe has it. South America has it. Asia has it. Africa has drawings of long-necked animals, large animals that aren't elephants or hippos or rhinoceroses, that are much larger. And so it seems like there's this collective memory among humans that there were these animals that were bigger.
Yeah.
And then every continent has dragon legends that are the same. Fire-breathing, flying, big reptile kind of animals. Every single continent has those. Right?
So when I was in New York just a few months ago with my family, my brother Jim, who was a pastor down in Texas, he doesn't necessarily hold the title of pastor now, even though he has a pastoral degree. But anyway, he works for a creation organization. Did you know that?
No.
So anyway, that's all he does. So as we were looking through the museum, we were in the museum in New York, and they had a dinosaur section, right?
Yeah.
So there's all these different bones. And they had pictures of kind of how they were found. And my brother Jim was explaining the whiplash positions that some of these very large creatures would have been in, and how their necks looked like they were broken.
Right.
And he said, so how do you break the neck that looks like a cedar tree?
Right.
And he said, guess what? A big flood.
Right. Those bones, some of those bones are as big as whale bones.
Yeah. Right.
And those, I mean, they're bigger than your body.
Right.
But that neck got snapped somehow.
Right.
And it's not just one; it's the whole field of them.
Right.
Where they found them laying.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
they died in cataclysms.
Right. And so that's the reason why, because even if there was meteors or lava, or which is sort of the imagery that we have, for the extinction of, there's a comet that came, and then lava and meteors and all these different things. But water is the force that could do exactly that. So anyway, it was interesting because he is so educated, and I can't even begin to repeat what he said because I would look dumb, right? Because he said 10,000 things. And as we were walking through, and he was like, but it was basic. But I just remember thinking, holy cow. And he was right in that when he pointed out, like, I remember him pointing out like 10 different things. He's like, see this photo? He's like, that neck is snapped. And then we go to the next one, and he's like, you see this? They could be preserved this way, this way, or this way, and one way was underwater. And the only reason why this whole thing would have been because it was a conglomerate, like almost like a burial site, right?
Yeah.
You know, like remember Lion King when they said the elephant's graveyard?
Yes,
Remember that?
That's what most fossil discoveries are found in large fossil. They call them literally fossil beds.
Yes,
and it can be a whole valley or the whole side of a hill.
Right,
it's just covered with all these different dinosaurs. Yeah,
and it's because they believe that they were washed away in the flood and taken down to a place where they collected. Right together, and all of them, like I said, you know, just having evidence that sort of pointed to a great force. So it was interesting. It was really interesting to me. So I am not the believer of the before man theory. I am a believer of the flood theory, that the flood was the thing that wiped them out.
So now here come all the angry anti-science emails. So we just want to thank you for bringing that up as well for us. But
yeah, thanks, Bella.
Thank you, Bella.
Yep.
So here's where we're at. We are not scientists.
Nope.
We just don't have a problem with what we know. We don't have a problem with saying that they lived during human times and that the Bible does reference them on multiple occasions.
Right.
Yep. So with that being said, let me encourage you. There are other great places to find lots of information about dinosaurs and humans from a biblical perspective. And so I like the Creation Museum. I like what they're doing down there in Kentucky. A lot of that stuff. They're not the only ones. Your brother has what's the name of the organization?
I don't even know. That's terrible.
Maybe we should put that in the notes and see if that'd be helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, hey, great question, Bella. And you almost stumped us there. That's a tough one.
I'm going to text him right now. Yeah. And I'll see by the time the end of this podcast happens if he answers.
Oh, great. Well, we're going to pivot, and we're still in this time when David is running from Absalom is where we're at now. And this is a Psalm of David regarding a time when David was still in the wilderness of Judah. He's hiding, and he's asking God for God's presence, for his provision, for his protection. And so here's what it says. David says, "O God, you are my God. I earnestly search for you. My soul thirsts for you. My whole body longs for you in this parched land, in this weary land where there is no water. I have seen you in your sanctuary and gazed upon your power and glory. Your unfailing love is better than life itself. How I praise you. I will praise you as long as I live, lifting up my hands to you in prayer. You satisfy me more than the richest feast. I will praise you with songs of joy. I lie awake thinking of you, meditating on you through the night. Because you are my helper, I sing for joy in the shadow of your wings. I cling to you. Your strong right hand holds me securely. But those plotting to destroy me will come to ruin. They will go down into the depths of the earth. They will die by the sword and become the food of jackals, but the king will rejoice in God. All who trust in him will praise him, while liars will be silenced."
It's awesome.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
My brother wrote me back right away.
Oh, wow.
He works for the Institute for Creation Research.
Oh, I've heard of them. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Institute for Creation Research is interesting. Now, all science is the study of things. It's not the law of things, right?
Right,
so,
correct.
So all these different science organizations, both on the secular side and the Christian side, they're studying a thing. They're researching a thing. They're looking for plausible answers. And so I think that the Institute for Creation Research, and then also Ken Ham's organization up there at the Creation Museum and all that kind of stuff is it. Well, hey, great. Check those out. There's a bunch more, but check those out. So back here with David running from his son Absalom and saying, God, I don't really have any hope except for you, but I'm completely content in trusting that you're going to take care of me.
Yeah, that's great. And by the way, this is beautiful imagery, isn't it?
Yeah.
The latter half of this, when he says, because you are my helper, I can sing for joy in the shadow of your wings. Well, the shadow of your wings is it's like a mother hen who protects, right? Or I guess a father could do the same thing, right? Yeah. But any animal that
but the roosters don't. It's always the hen.
It's always the hen, yeah. So, but it's a protection thing, right?
Yeah.
So in the previous chapter that we just read, he says, "God, you are my shield." So there's this. There's like a word picture that comes with every metaphor.
Yeah.
Right? So, for instance, think about this. When Jesus says, I'm the shepherd and you are the sheep, you're like, oh, Well, every shepherd knows that has 1,000 applications.
Right.
When he says, "I'm the vine and you are the branch," and then you bear fruit if you're connected, you're like, wow.
Every vintner knows.
Every vineyard knows, like, oh yeah, and when I get disconnected, then there's the pruning, and then there's the harvest,
Right.
and then there's the water source, and holy cow, right? Be like a tree planted by the rivers of water. Oh yeah, that's a great word picture. So here it is again, and he says, "I sing for joy in the shadow of your wings. I cling to you. You hold strong with your right hand. You hold me securely." And I think to myself, that is a beautiful word picture and everything that comes with it, right? When you observe nature, you could probably watch an entire documentary about a mother protecting her chicks and understand just how awesome just that one sentence is.
I was going to comment on that same verse, so that's great. That's what got your attention.
Awesome.
Yeah. So growing up, we had 100 chickens. Where I, growing up as a kid, and so I have a lot of familiarity with chickens. For a while, when we live in the suburbs, but we had 4 chickens in our backyard for quite a while, and that was pretty great too. They lay hens. They were hens. They lay eggs every 4 days, or they lay 4 eggs a day. I'm sorry, that's what we would get. So, anyways, just recently I was in Tanzania, and we were doing this safari drive one afternoon. It wasn't a safari trip. It was a mission trip working with Christian leaders, but we had this afternoon, so we drive out to look at the animals, and we stopped at a spot. By the way, about 15 minutes after we'd seen lions, we stop and we get out of the truck, and there was a little picnic area and some restrooms and stuff, and so there's no fences or anything, and you're kind of thinking in the back of your mind, we weren't driving very fast to get here. I bet we're like a half a mile from where those lions were.
And that tall grass is not very far away.
Exactly. But when so I walk around, there's a great big giant banyan tree, and I walk around that, and there's some guinea fowl. You ever see guinea fowl?
Yeah,
they look like a chicken, kind of, right?
Yes.
They're a little bit bigger, but they look like a chicken. And she had a whole bunch of hens, and she made a clucking kind of a noise. And all the baby chicks, peep, 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 come in, and she kind of fluffed out her wings, and it was like 8 chicks just disappeared, right? And then she was kind of dancing around everywhere I would walk. She would move to face me, and you can hear peep, 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 but you can't see any of them. They're all hidden under her wings like that, right? And I was thinking that this is exactly what he's talking about, is those little chicks had no protection. Now, of course, she wasn't going to do much either, but she was there ready to risk her life to protect those baby chicks, and she was squaring off with me, and I'm 200 none of your business pounds, and she probably weighs like 5 pounds, right? But she's there, she's protecting these chicks, and those chicks knew instinctively when danger was here, I need to run underneath her wings. And so that was the immediate image that I thought. And then it talks about how he holds me securely with his strong right hand. And I can remember my daughter, she's the youngest of my 3. And my 2 boys, I'm like, suck it up, Buttercup, right? You're going to be men, tough, be tough. I might have been a little too tough on them. But Jenna was exactly the opposite way. Jenna wrapped me around her finger the minute I saw her. And from that point on, it was like, okay, I'm going to do whatever to protect her. So, but she always had this desire. She wanted to be tough. The boys were tough. She wanted to go do dangerous things. And so I can remember we were at a carnival, and there were these rides, and the ride might have been just a little bit too big for her, but the boys went, and she really wanted to go, and Daddy, come with me. So I get with her, and then it was a pretty rambunctious ride, one of those, I don't know, spinner things or whatever. And she got really scared. She started crying. So I put my arm around her and pulled her in real tight. And she grabbed a hold of my arm like this. And by the end of the ride, she was laughing. So it was scary when she felt like she was by herself. She was just trying to stay in the ride. You know what I mean? You're that little. Right. You're just trying to stay in the ride. The ride's just bouncing all around. She's crashing all around. But when I grabbed her and pulled her in tight, she grabs onto my arm like that. And then at that point, she's not bouncing around. She has a certain amount of security. And then it went from being terrifying to fun. And so we get off the ride, and have you ever seen a kid that's laughing and crying at the same time?
Yes. That's
right. The little kids have this ability. So she's like, I don't know, like 7 or 8 years old, and she's got tears streaming down her face with a big smile on her face at the same time. And I think of this is what I see. I cling to you, and your strong right hand holds me securely. That's what he's our Father, that when the world is just bouncing us around, we feel like we're hanging on, trying not to fly out. Yeah. God puts his arm around us, hangs on. And then from that point, it's not so bad.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And David is once again, talking about his enemies, right?
Yeah. Let's put that. They'll go down to the depths of the earth. The Hebrew there is they're going to go to hell.
Right.
Right. He's like, God, they're trying to ruin me, but I know they're going to hell.
Yeah. And he says they would die by the sword. They would become food for the jackals.
Ew.
Right. But the king will rejoice in God, and all those put praise in him, while the liars will be silenced.
Yeah.
So this is him basically proclaiming the future.
Yeah.
And he says, hey, regardless of how things look right now, here's what I know. What I know is, God, you're going to give me the victory because I stand on the side of what is right.
Right.
And I know that you're going to accomplish this, just like you always have. And think about David's, first 15 years of his, race to the throne, right? How many battles could he count on his fingers and toes where God just showed up and did miraculous thing against all odds?
Right.
And so David knows this is not unfamiliar with him. And so there's a sermon in there somewhere where it tells us to let's trust God for future, fears based on his past deliveries.
Yeah.
Right.
So
there's a better way to say that. So
because of what God did in the past, I can trust him today and
trust
tomorrow.
God's past faithfulness for that which lies ahead.
Yeah.
So I think that, it's a reminder. If we can see God's hand in the small things, there's no reason to believe that he's not going to show up in the big things.
Right.
And by the way, my brother keeps on texting me. This is so funny. He says their mission statement is on the website, but they mainly exist to show that Scripture is supported and confirmed by science.
Yeah.
Right? They want to provide the information, the science, and the research and the resources to equip believers and give them confidence of knowing that the Bible is supported by science.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Good. So, well, let's end there then. That sounds good.
Yeah, I think that's good. So, all right. Well, that is our time. And so we will see you hopefully next time on The Bible Guys.